Why the Bears can win the NFC North in 2024. What's up, guys? Swift here today, and I wanted to talk about why I believe the Bears can win their division this season. One of my favorite things about the National Football League and why it's always been my favorite sport is because of the tough competition and the parity that's seen in today's NFL. Sure, there will always be GOATs that dominate in the playoffs and collect more Super Bowl rings, but even during Tom Brady's entire run, there was still plenty of parity around the league. I'm talking about teams going from worst to first in their division. It happens more in the NFL than in any other sport, and it's helped make the league as popular as it is. In every sport, fans are always optimistic in the offseason. There's always next year, right? But the hope doesn't always translate as well in other sports. The NFL is the prime example of competitiveness and parity. There are always going to be poorly ran franchises and better ran franchises, but it just comes down to having the right front office. But you cannot argue with how much parity there has been in the league. Over the last 21 years, there has been at least one team that finished last in its division the previous year that ended up winning the division the following season. It happened in 19 of the last 21 seasons. Pretty much every year in the NFL, we have at least one team that goes from last place in its division to winning the division title just 1 year later. So that brings me to today's topic and why I think the Bears can win the division this season. Let's go ahead and get right into it. We are looking at the 8 teams that finished last place in their division in 2023. In the NFC, we have the Commanders, the Bears, the Cardinals, and the Panthers. In the AFC, we have the Patriots, the Bengals, the Chargers, and the Titans. Out of those 8 teams, chances are one of them is going to surprise people and win their division this season. If the trend continues, we should expect that to happen. One of those teams are going to turn things around and surprise people this year and win their division in 2024. First, let's get rid of the teams that don't seem to have that much of a chance at all. The Commanders would have to pull off a miracle to take over the Eagles and Cowboys this year. I just don't see that happening. I do believe the Cardinals are an interesting one. I would rank them about 5th on my list overall. With Kyler Murray back to full health, and they've added some other playmakers on offense, such as Marvin Harrison Jr., the problem is they are in a tough division, and I don't know if they can overtake the 49ers, the Seahawks, and the Rams this year. Then we get to the Carolina Panthers, who didn't have a first-round pick this year and finished with the worst record in the NFL in 2023. It's not impossible, but I do not see the Panthers being the team to do it this year. And then we go over to the AFC. And to start off, I don't really see the Patriots being very competitive this year at all. Not to mention they're in a tough division with 3 teams that have Super Bowl aspirations, at least in the preseason. So I don't think it's happening in New England either. And then what about the Chargers? Another interesting one, kind of like the Cardinals. They already have a big-time quarterback in Justin Herbert, and they just got a new head coach that's had a ton of success everywhere he's went in Jim Harbaugh. The Chargers are probably my sleeper team on this list, but I don't see them taking down the Chiefs this year. But that division isn't that great. If something unforeseen were to happen to Mahomes, I think the Chargers would then be the favorites in that division. With the Raiders and Broncos both looking like teams that got worse, maybe the Chargers could be a surprise, but I still think that's not very likely. That leaves 3 teams that I think have the best chance of going from worst to first in 2024. Those 3 teams are the Cincinnati Bengals, the Chicago Bears, and the Tennessee Titans. I think the Bengals and Bears stand out as the top 2 easily, and then I chose the Titans as the 3rd team. It was between the Titans, Chargers, and Cardinals, but the Titans have a better shot of winning their division than the Chargers or Cardinals do to me. One of the main reasons is the Chargers are in the same division as the Chiefs. The Cardinals are in the same division as the 49ers. Those are 2 of the best teams in the NFL. On top of that, the Titans went 6-11 last year, and Will Levis did show some promise. They are transitioning from a smash-mouth football team to a team with speed and playmakers on offense. They surrounded Will Levis with 3 new wide receivers via free agency. signing DeAndre Hopkins, Calvin Ridley, and Tyler Boyd. They also replaced Derrick Henry with speed back Tony Pollard. So to sum things up, the Titans weren't that bad last year. They finished 6-11, and on top of that, they had a great offseason. On draft day, they added to the trenches in a big way with J.C. Latham and Tavondre Sweat. I see the Texans and Jags competing for the division, but the Titans are an intriguing team to watch out for. And then let's talk about the team that I believe has the best chance of going from worst to first. It's the Cincinnati Bengals, led by superstar quarterback Joe Burrow and wide receivers Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. The Bengals went to the Super Bowl just 2 years ago, and they had the best record of all of the last place teams last year, going 9-8. Cincy was just 2 losses away from winning the division last year, and I believe they've gotten better. They lost DJ Reader, Joe Mixon, and Tyler Boyd, but they added Sheldon Rankins, Mike Gesicki, Geno Stone, Zach Moss, and more. And then on draft day, they shored up the right tackle spot with Amarius Mims and grabbed stud D tackle Chris Jenkins while replacing Tyler Boyd with Alabama speedster Jermaine Burton. The biggest obstacle in front of the Bengals is that they play in probably the toughest division in football, the AFC North. They have quite a gauntlet of opponents to contend with: the Baltimore Ravens, the Cleveland Browns, and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Every team in the division won at least 9 games last year, and the race to win the division usually comes down to the last week of the season. The Bengals definitely have a shot at going from worst to first. But then we get to the Bears. The Chicago Bears had the second best record of any last place team in their division last year, and in my opinion had by far the best offseason of any of these teams by a wide margin. They added some superstars to the roster via free agency, trades, and the draft. Ryan Poles traded for not only Keenan Allen, but also Ryan Bates. And then in free agency, he went out and landed DeAndre Swift, Kevin Byard, Gerald Everett, and Coleman Shelton. To top that off, the Bears had 2 top 10 picks in the NFL draft, and even better, somehow landed 2 of the best 3 players in the entire draft: Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze. Those 2 guys are this team's future. But Poles wasn't done. He also added Austin Booker, Torrey Taylor, and Karana Megaji, as well as some undrafted free agents to watch out for as well. The Bears do play in one of the toughest divisions in the NFL as well, featuring the Lions, Packers, and Vikings, 3 other teams that also have playoff aspirations. The Vikings could be taking a big step back, though, after losing Kirk Cousins and moving on to J.J. McCarthy and Sam Darnold. But the Packers and Lions both got better this offseason, so winning this division won't come easy. But on the bright side, the Bears have a ton of talent, and they should be competing for this division late in the season. With all 6 of their division games coming after Week 10, the Bears are in a position to control their own destiny down the stretch of the season. Just another potential advantage. The bottom line is that most likely some team will go from worst to first in the NFL this year. To me, the Bears, Bengals, and Titans are the 3 most likely teams to accomplish that. So while I don't think anyone should list the Bears as the favorites to win the NFC North, it's clearly not out of the realm of possibilities either. It happens almost every year in the NFL. The Houston Texans did it last year with C.J. Stroud, a rookie quarterback. The Bears did it back in 2018 with a rookie head coach in Matt Nagy and second-year quarterback Mitch Trubisky. We also accomplished the feat back in 2001. Anyone who remembers that, that was the year we drafted Brian Urlacher and Mike Brown. Mike Brown won 2 games for us alone that season. Another recent example was in 2016 when Dak Prescott was a rookie quarterback and took over after Tony Romo got injured. He led the Cowboys from worst to first, winning the NFC East and sending Tony Romo pretty much into retirement. That's another point there. Getting a new quarterback does seem to be a theme for a lot of these teams that went from worst to first. If you go back and look at 2 of the greatest worst to first stories, those 2 examples are the 2001 New England Patriots and the 1999 St. Louis Rams. Both of those teams lost their starting quarterbacks due to injury, as Trent Green and Drew Bledsoe went down with major injuries. Both had unheralded backups lead their teams to Super Bowls in Tom Brady and Kurt Warner. But those are two examples of other teams that went from worst to first, but at least one team does it every year. The NFL is one sport where teams really have the chance to turn things around and go from worst to first in just one season. I expect it to happen again in 2024, and I think the Bears have a great shot to be that team. Realistically, we should be the third team ranked in the division if you're placing favorites to win the NFC North, with the Lions being the heavy favorites and the Packers coming in at second. But the NFL is not played on paper, and every year some team surprises the world and pulls off the feat going from last in their division to winning it just a year later. The Bears had a better offseason than any other team on this list, possibly the best in franchise history. Add that with a favorable schedule, and we don't play any of our division games until after week 10, and you have to see where I'm coming from here. So while I don't think anyone should be out there betting their mortgage on this, or that we should even be talked about as the favorites in the division, like I said, the Lions are the favorites to win the division. The Packers should be the second favorite team. The Bears should be in third, but this division will be a bloodbath, especially from weeks 11 to 18. Similar to the AFC North, where the Cincinnati Bengals will be battling. All I'm saying is, if you're the Chicago Bears and you're a fan, there is definitely a chance. Don't write us off before the season even starts. Let's see what Caleb Williams and Shane Waldron can bring to this offense, and let's enjoy every single snap this season. I think it's time for the fan base to stop fighting with each other and unite. I appreciate everyone who watches. Please remember to hit that like button for me. Stay tuned. I have a ton more content on the way. And until next time, bear down.